the Podski with John Baker. For over 1 year, the revolutionary force in audio entertainment.
Ooh, yeah!
Brother,
Let me talk to you! Freak out, freak out!
I just had an out-of-body experience!
Insane in the membrane!
Brother,
Yeah! And I'm here for only one reason, and that's to take it to the limit, yeah!
somebody stop the damn man!
I'm living on the edge.
Who is your daddy?
Hello and welcome to the Podski. I'm your host, the man of 1,000 gimmicks, Johnny Bake Show, episode 76, and we are back to the Podski 100. After today, we will be halfway through the 100. So today is 60 through 51. We got the regular crew in here. We got Teddy Mongoose and Justin Andretti, and JC will be joining us from a gimmick location.
Booker of the year.
So,
Suck it, John.
awesome week. So, what's going on, boys?
Well, did anybody else happen to buy anything from the WWE shop on Black Friday?
It used to be such an enjoyable experience whenever it was
It
just
sure isn't now.
Well, and really quick before you sound off, someone needs to tell me why. And I guess maybe it's because they're all just printed on demand, and maybe that's the way that they save. I don't understand how that shop still has a Hit Row shirt for $20. Like that shirt needs to be $4, and if it was $4, I'd own it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And that's the way that the WWE shop was for 15 years, was that you just waited for the stupid shirts that had like, big DeVille energy and stuff like that on them. And then you just scoop them all up for $3.75. It's a crying shame. All right, go ahead.
You know what else is crazy is that they did that big sale, and some of the shirts just weren't on sale. Like for like no reason. There was like 6 shirts that just weren't on sale. Like why was the thank you Trish shirt not on sale? Why was that one singled out of all the shirts? I don't understand.
That's incredible.
ever since they
It's
did
so weird.
since WWE switched over from the regular shop that we know, originally the Shop Zone, then they switched to the shop, and now they're run by Fanatics. It is the worst shopping experience possible. It's the worst thing that has happened in WWE this turn of the century. It's god awful. They've got rid of $5 Fridays. They got rid of all of the good shit that we used to buy all the time. That would be like, you could buy 100 things for $3 each, and it would be perfect. And
Yeah.
we don't do any of that now because Fanatics is a bunch of money grubbing communists.
Fanatics is awful, man. Like I've fallen victim to the buying the Fanatics branded stuff, like a hat or a T-shirt or something, and it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Well, what happened?
Terrible quality. What's that?
What happened to you on Black Friday?
So I bought 4 shirts on Black Friday. I got a really homoerotic Shawn Michaels shirt. I got a Becky Lynch shirt. I bought the Zoe Stark shirt, and I got a Dragon Lee shirt. And I was excited, and they came in the mail, and the only thing that was the real size was the Shawn Michaels shirt. All the other 3 were so small. Dude, I literally couldn't even. I put them over my head and put my arms in, and I was like, if I pull this over my head, I'm gonna freaking stretch this thing out so bad I can't even return it. So I just put them back in the freaking box and shipped them off, dude. So I kept one of them and had to get rid of 3 of them and got a refund on the other 3. It's unbelievable, dude. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. Like it was like 2 sizes smaller than what it was supposed to be. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I've had that experience before. But that was when it was the shop, and like those retro tees are like the big tees. Like I'm wearing the God's Chillin' Survivor Series shirt, and like these are like the old '90s style shirts. Like they're not like the stretch fit, like those type ones.
I don't want a stretch fit, dude.
Oh, I want stretch fit, but these are.
I don't like anything touching me, so I want a big shirt.
I like these. Well, if it wasn't for the fact that this is like a retro shirt, like it wouldn't work. But it does work since it is the retro shirt. Like it feels nostalgia. So
yeah. So coincidentally enough, Township also ordered 2 shirts off of the Fanatics WWE store, and he mailed both of his shirts back the same day I did, because he said it wasn't even close. It was like 2 sizes too small. So he told me that he's under the impression that, I don't know where he heard this, but he heard that they don't have a defined source from where they get all their shirts anymore, and that they get them from different vendors, and for whatever reason the sizes are way off. So it's, I mean, dude, it wasn't even close.
Wow. That's terrible.
That's a shame too, man, because you guys know I'm a big supporter of women's wrestling and everything, and I really wanted the Zoe Stark shirt, and I really wanted the Becky Lynch shirt, and I got them in the mail, and I was excited, and when I tried to put them on, I was like, "There's no way."
That sucks. Speaking of things that don't suck, is last week's show we covered Survivor Series, and we also did a little bit of AEW talk, so make sure you check that out and listen to that. And we also had obviously we had the That's So Dolphins talk. Today we're going to be covering the 60 through 51. So if you are new to the show or new to the channel, make sure if you're watching us on YouTube, you download and subscribe. And if you're listening to us in podcasts, that you download, rate, review, and subscribe. Head back to the archives to catch up for 61 through 100. So
I did get the Stash Page's Abdullah the Butcher House of Ribs and Chinese food shirt that he put up, and that shirt is freaking awesome.
Oh, that's really?
Awesome. Yeah,
I love Stash Pages. Shout out Stash Pages. We put them over a lot on this show. Shout out God's Chillin'. They've got great. I'm literally wearing all.
August, what was the link? What was the name of the place you sent today? The link.
What a
Square
good question.
Circle something?
Squared Circle Classic, something like that.
Yeah, they had a lot of good stuff on there.
Incredible, like late 80s, mid-late 80s, early 90s retro tees, man.
That Modern Day Warrior Kerry Von Erich shirt is amazing.
Yeah, there's some gems on there.
The Superstar Billy Graham shirt where he's holding a tiger.
It's insane.
I had the Cody Rhodes version of that a couple of years ago. It got beat up and cut off and worked out in and everything else, but it was pretty awesome. It was Cody in that same exact stance with the same font, and he was instead of a tiger, he was with Pharaoh. That's pretty sweet shirt.
Love Pharaoh. But yeah, all right. So getting into the 100, if you are catching up here, you're looking on the screen right now on YouTube. Sorry if you're an audio platform, but on the screen right now is 100 through 61. So if you've been following along or you want to go back to see what we said about those, if you haven't heard, please go back and listen to those in the archives. But we got, this is probably our best set of 10 yet, and it's only going to get better from here. These are going to be absolutely more familiar faces that you've heard before. I mean, some of them are even still going today, which makes it even better. So, yeah, we'll just kick it right off with number 60 with 124 votes. He was on everybody's list, so that's great. We're getting into those now too. He came in on Andretti's list at 58, came in Mongoose's list at 96, JC's list at 80, and mine at 46, and that is Arn Anderson, the enforcer himself. And I'll kick it off because he was the highest on my list. When I think of Arn Anderson, set the standard for television championships. I feel like anytime you see a television championship, you instantly think of Arn Anderson. And kind of his, I guess you kind of don't even really realize how long of a career he had, even though it was cut short, but it was still pretty long. He went deep into the 90s. Obviously had the, You Can Have My Spot with the Horsemen, and he's still going today. He was a really big producer in WWE a few years ago, AEW, and he was with Cody whenever he had his TNT championship run there for a little bit. He was Glock Anderson, which is incredible that he's still able to get over. The absolute comfiest man on the planet whenever he's wearing those tracksuits ringside these days.
Comfiest man in the planet, stuffed into clothes that Andretti said that he would never wear.
Dude, so great.
Snug fitting, stretchy, literally the antithesis of the Andretti experience.
I mean, you think about Arn Anderson just being ageless, right? I mean, you watch those promos from him from like the late 80s, early 90s, and he looks exactly the same for 25 years.
Oh, hey, it looks exactly like he did back then right now, except only he's about 30 pounds heavier. It's incredible. I mean, the guy has a very long he was now I guess you could look at him and say like he was kind of a career tag guy because he was with Tully, but he had great championship runs as the NWA and WCW World Television Champion. And
Absolutely.
I feel that, he's super high on my list. He's definitely higher than anybody else's here. So I love Arn, very believable, good, hard working worker. And nobody makes a spine buster look the way that Arn Anderson did.
And I think too, the big thing for me with him is just the believability with him and how he was so serious and came across so honestly, when he did promos, just an unbelievable guy, man. Like he had to be a major inspiration for everybody that came after him in terms of being on the mic. I mean, that guy was he was so believable and so just, right to the chase and gonna, cut your throat and everything else. I mean, it was unbelievable. So, I mean, I think just from a mic work standpoint alone, even though he is a fantastic worker in the ring, just from a mic work standpoint alone, I think he's one of the greatest of all time.
I have him the lowest of anybody. And the reason why is the sort of the disclaimer thing that John threw out before is that I have him as a tag guy. Like I think of all of his best stuff as tag stuff, which is great tag stuff. And the cool thing with me is my introduction to Arn actually was like, I didn't really know what Four Horsemen were. It was when he was in the Dangerous Alliance. And the Dangerous Alliance was awesome, man. When him and Zbyszko were the enforcers.
Dude, that was one of the most underrated tag teams ever. Those guys were amazing together.
It was absolutely awesome. And then that stable, who do we got? You have Austin, Rude. Was it Missy Hyatt or Medusa? Which one? Which girl was there? And it was Medusa. This is an all-star stable. I'm just going to read it off. I just have it on Wikipedia in front of me. Paul E. As the head of it, obviously. Arn, Bobby Eaton, Larry Zbyszko, Medusa, Michael P.S. Hayes, Rick Rude, Steve Austin. Dude, that is Murderer's Row right there. That is excellent. And that's where I got exposed to Arn, was as a tag with Zbyszko and in that group. And so, I was right out of the gate. I thought that he was awesome. Following that, I was a huge fan. John, thank you for putting over the TV title stuff. The three things, because I was trying to think of Arn as a single, like what can I talk about? And three opponents that I got. I think my favorite feud might have been Lord Steven Regal. Don't remember the year. Probably, obviously, would have been somewhere between like 93, 95. And then Johnny B. Bad and Alex Wright. Like that was an awesome little stable of TV championship, guys. So yes, for that reason, and because he's an iconic character, he needed to be in my top 100. I have him lower because my favorite Arn is tagging Arn. That's all.
Yeah, when I look back at it and I saw that I put Kofi Kingston in the top 100, I was kind of like, he's probably a tag guy too, when it's all said and done. But the guy had a hell of a run as a singles guy, and I figured Arn was kind of the same vein as that, where he had a great tag team run too, but he also had a great singles run, and he was so good on the microphone that even without the tag team stuff on the mic, he was unbelievable. So I think he's very deserving of being on the list for sure.
Yeah, some
I was speaking of the tag team stuff real quick. I didn't know that. I never knew that him and Ole never had a WCW tag team title run, and it was just they had the NWA national tag team titles, but they were never WCW tag champs. I thought that they were at the very beginning of WCW, but I guess not.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have thought that either, actually.
I would have totally not even had that right either. So yeah, it's a Jim Crockett in NCAA WCW. He was with Paul Roma. He was with Ole, like you mentioned, the national tag.
That was a great team. That was a great team too.
That was the team. The spray paint or the airbrushed Four Horsemen shirt on Stash Pages.
Yes.
That was Paul Roma and Arn's gear.
Oh my gosh.
Ring. They
I mean,
have like
you guys
to the ring
know
gear.
I'm a Paul Roma mark and always have been, man. I've always thought that guy was super underrated and was a pretty good talent. I don't know why people, trash on him, and maybe he's not the right fit for the Horsemen or whatever. But I mean, I've always thought Paul Roma was super underrated. I like that guy.
Side note, but when we eventually get to best gears show, any gear that is airbrushed instantly gets +5. So I just want that to get out there. But yeah, he tagged with Tully, Zbyszko, Eaton, and Roma. They were NWA Mid-Atlantic or WCW World Tag Team Champions. And him and Zbyszko won the tag championship tournament in 91. And he was also WWF Tag Team Champion one time with Tully. Was Hall of Fame in 2012 with the Horsemen. And then as far as Observer, he's not in the Hall of Fame, but he won Best Interviews in 1990. And then of note, and a lot of people would say that this is the worst worked match of the year 1996, but I think that we could all agree that the Tower of Doom match from Uncensored 96 is one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time.
It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Yep. Not just matches, things.
Yes. And then one final accomplishment for Arn is that he won the Lifetime Achievement, the Luthez Award for the Cauliflower Iron Club in 2016.
Excellent.
For that. Yeah, that's an awesome one because that's your peers. That your peers vote on that. So good for him.
Arn Anderson to me is one of those guys who was born just a couple years too late. It's always been said that he would have been an excellent NWA world, like the traveling champion model. He came into the business at a time where it was starting to change. And while he was one of the best promos, he was a great worker. He was believable. He never really got to that top guy status. And I think part of that was because of his look and the guys around him. Like when you're in the time with Flair and things like that, you're not going to get to in a different era. But that's not to say he didn't do great things as a single. He did plenty of very believable angles. Was a TV champion, worked with Dusty in that regard. Member of the Horsemen, Dangerous Alliance. He was excellent. Continued to be excellent until he was forced to retire. And he was very excellent on-air talent when he was with Cody at the time as well. So, yeah, Arn had a great career.
Okay, we got number 59, 129 votes. He did not make it onto Andretti's list, but he was on Mongoose's list at 64. He was on JC's at 57. And then again, somebody who was the highest on my list at 53 is Jeff Hardy. So Jeff Hardy he was enormous whenever I was coming up. So Jeff Hardy was the dude. And there's been so many swanton bombs that have been hit on a trampoline that I've done that I still can do to this day. Little shout out, little pat on the back ski for that. But Jeff Hardy and his charisma, that was early 2000 singles run was incredible. Now we all know Jeff Hardy can technically kind of be considered I guess a lot of people would look at him as a career tag guy because of the Hardy.
Yeah, but he had big runs in singles matches, even in WWE.
Right. And the early
he was very much the front man of that tag too. He stood out more, I think. So
yeah,
more star power.
Totally agree.
I mean, you talk about a self-made guy, man. I mean, him and Matt Hardy's brother were just tiny jobbers who just wowed everybody in the back, dude. They got opportunities to just go out there and get killed, and they would get out there and get killed when they were the Hardy Boys before they even had a gimmick. And they got themselves over, dude, with everybody in the back, and they got hired. And you think about when they got hired at that time, I mean, there was very few people of their size that were getting opportunities in the WWE. I mean, that's pretty impressive that they were able to do that.
Yeah, it really is impressive. I think that
What an athlete. I mean, what an athlete this guy, right?
Seriously, yeah, seriously, and like still going today, can still get after it. Maybe not at the rate that he could once do it as, but one of the things that I remember as a kid watching was that ladder match that he had on Raw with Undertaker, and I can't remember if it was 2002 or 2003, but that match is incredible. I encourage everyone to go out and find that Undertaker Jeff Hardy match. It was on a Raw and it was a ladder match. It was absolutely insanity.
What's hilarious is that I watched that show with Andretti at the Graz's Den, and I'm fairly certain that all we did was complain for the whole 20 minutes that both these guys suck.
Oh my gosh.
I know that match is it has stood the test of time, right? And that's like one of his king making moments for whenever they sort of were seeing, can we dip our toe in him being the next guy? And I'm fairly certain, because that was ABA Taker, and that was just wasting time on our screen, and then they brought Jeff Hardy out, and we were like, man, an old loser and a nerd, total Joe Bear.
ABA Undertaker is the best Undertaker, and I think
he's aged so well. But God, I wasn't a fan. I was not a fan then.
At the time, no, but now in retrospect, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Hardy really, whenever he left the company, obviously he's had a lot of demons. We all know that. There's still problems to this day. But he came back to WWE, had those World Heavyweight WWE Championship runs that were really, really good, that a lot of people, that's whenever I left wrestling, and I kind of wish I never did, because like that's some really great shit that he did. But I think that what a lot of people can remember is this TNA run that they recently had with Impact or whatever, but it was whenever they were doing the whole deletion gimmick with Matt, and then Brother Nero was there too, and they had all of that kind of crazy stuff with all the cinematic matches, and with Willow as well, like his alter ego that he did in the early 2010s. Like he's got a lot of really great single stuff that can, like, not a lot of people can remember because it wasn't always in our face with WWE programming.
Sure. I think that when I was doing my 100, he was one of the guys that was really close to the bottom. Like he was one of the guys that was in like the 101 to 105 for me. And I'm pretty sure I remember not getting him in at like 99 or 100 because I knew that the rest of you guys were going to put him on your list. So I kind of just gave the love to other people at that point. But I mean, that's the only explanation I can think of as to why I didn't put him in. But I mean, look, man, this guy is super creative. I mean, inside the ring and out, what he's done in the ring is unbelievable, just from a creativity standpoint and an athleticism standpoint. And now outside the ring too, he's probably Jeff Hardy, I bet you, is somebody that is probably really good at everything he tries, whether it's some kind of artistic vein or in the ring or whatever he does. He's just one of those people that seems like he's probably pretty good at everything he attempts, for the most part, So, and I think that's really a testament to him. It's, look, the guy was in his own way a lot, for his career. Hopefully he'll get it together, and he's got it together now, and things are going good, I hope. But, hopefully he'll be able to keep working for another couple of years, man, because when he's in the ring, he does really special stuff, and it's really fun to see.
Jeff Hardy now will be Darby Allin in 15 years if Darby makes it 15 more years in the ring. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? Like he sort of was he was the roadmap for that type of insane, I'm fearless. I will take any bump. I will do any spot, all for the glory. Right. And the things that whenever I think of Jeff Hardy, the stuff that sticks out to me is obviously the TLC matches, right? Like those right away. The matches with the Young Bucks, especially the ladder matches, were fantastic. And I had him on the list because, again, I sort of saw him as the as the front man of that tag team. And I can't deny every single time that I've ever seen Jeff Hardy post 2004 come out, he gets an insane reaction. Every time he rips the fishnet shirt off, all the girls scream. He's got it. He's very charismatic, the charismatic enigma. He's good, man, and he set the standard for many, many, many that will follow after him, and so I think he has a worthy spot where he's at.
Sure.
Yeah, some accolades here for Jeff Hardy. For the Observer side, he was best flying wrestler of 2000. He had feud of the year in 2009 with CM Punk. And then some of the other bad ones. He had most disgusting promotional tactic in 2008, and then he had worst worked match of the year. But his WWE stuff is legendary. He's got he was one-time WWE champion, two-time world heavyweight champion, five-time intercontinental champion, European champion, United States champion, three-time hardcore champion. He's went to Slammies. He was the 18th Triple Crown champion. Obviously won the world.
That's a lot of stuff, man. That's a lot of stuff.
There's so much stuff. And
so you think about
really quick, honest to God, I didn't know that he was the Triple Crown. That didn't even register. So right. I'm even happier that he is where he is now. Good for him.
And people, I don't know what it is, but like it's sometimes it's tough to even kind of know about what people did in TNA for whatever reason. But that guy had a hell of a run in TNA too, man, for a while.
He's just as decorated in TNA. He was three-time world heavyweight champion, two-time tag team champion. He's got it all. He won the Bound for Glory seasons, race for the case, TNA World Cup, two-time TNA Wrestler of the Year. Like he did just as much in TNA. Also won ROH World Tag Team Championship once with his brother Hardy. So he's literally got so many accolades that it's deep, and
it is.
Glad that he made it on the list.
Jeff Hardy to me is a case of the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. The guy has charisma out the wazoo. He's an absolute spectacle when he's in the ring. You never know what to expect. He's creative as all get out. And when he was on top, he was top tier. And when he's on, he's, incredibly entertaining. He's maybe not a technical worker, and he's maybe not the best promo ever, but he's just absolutely, the kind of guy you want as a spectacle. He was a TNA champion, a WWE champion, a world heavyweight champion, and some of that gets overshadowed by the negatives, and you can't talk about Jeff without talking about the negatives, but he seems to have righted the ship again, and that's wonderful to see, because you don't want to see a guy like him who is successful and who is always very popular be down and out for too long. So definitely a story of the highest of highs and lowest of lows, but he's sort of righted the ship and seems like he's kind of getting it now. So I hope that's the case, and I hope it stays that way. But yeah, Jeff Hardy is absolutely one of the top 100 of all time.
All right, at 58, coming in with 131 votes, did not make it on Andretti's list, made it on Mongoose's list, the highest here, 36. He was on JC's list at 88, and he was on my list at 48, and that is one Will Ospreay.
I just figured he wasn't ready for it yet. I just, to put him into a top 100, I didn't think it was time yet to do it. But again, we talked about this before. If we're going to do this list again in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is Ospreay going to be on my list? Of course he will be. I just thought it was too early.
Yeah, for me, he was one of the exceptions that I made for the Hall of Fame guys, because he's an Observer Hall of Famer the second that he's eligible for it. He has the most 5-star matches of anyone. Like when we go through this list and we say, "Oh my gosh, these matches! Oh my gosh, these matches!" He's had more of them than everybody, and he's 30 or 31 or whatever it is. Like that's something. He went from being a like a skinny high flyer to a, muscular world champion looking built guy that can still fly, but changed his style so that now he'll have longevity, so that he's not, breaking in half whenever he's 35 years old. And he had two of the most incredible matches that I've ever seen this year with Kenny Omega. He had one of the best G1 semifinal matches you'll ever see with Tetsuya Naito. The matches with Shingo Takagi are out of this world. Taichi, that junior heavyweight run, where Marty, he wrestled Marty Scurll all those times and he couldn't beat Marty. That's great stuff. Great matches with Kota Ibushi. And I know that everybody that I'm saying is a great worker themselves, but this guy's he's on another level, man. He's so good. And I'm so excited that we're going to have the opportunity to see him on a regular basis on American television. And yeah, I would assume the way that we thought that Cody was brought in at WrestleMania to win the belt at the next WrestleMania, this actually is like, if he's not crowned at Wembley this year, then what are we doing? Right. And the fact that they already have the advance that they do for that show speaks to what he's built there. Right. He goes back and does Rev Pro shows. He's somebody that didn't forget where he came from. He was loyal to Japan for something like 8 years or whatever it was, simply because they were the ones that gave him a shot. Right. He's awesome, man. He's so good. And for me, he was instantly top 50 because of the year that he's had so far, stacked onto everything else. The other thing we need to remember is that, this guy right now is, and I'm saying from stuff that I've actually seen, we're talking like 7 years deep, so it's a true career. And it's only really, really heating up. Like, he's entering his quote unquote prime, and he's on another level. And the fact that, whenever I was looking at everything, and you want to look at, in ring, you want to look at all those other things. Is the gimmick the best in the world? No, it isn't. Whenever he was doing the video game assassin kind of deal or whatever, it's a little hokey, but look, man, he made it work. And now whenever he has that music play, the pops that he gets for that are awesome. And I love when that kind of stuff happens too. He started the United Empire faction, which was, we got introduced to Great Khan. Thank you, Will Ospreay, through that. Like, this guy's, I'm very proud of where I put him. And if that, helped to elevate him further, then good, because I think that the dude deserves it. So thank you, Will.
Look, there's nobody who had a better year this year than that guy. I mean, he probably is the number one male wrestler in the world, from an in-ring standpoint. And look, if you're listening to this and you think I'm down on Ospreay because I didn't put him in, just wait till the award show and you're going to find out how much we really appreciate this guy's work.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up Mongoose about his longevity that he's already had in the business, because I remember the very, very first time we ever saw Will Ospreay was that match that he had with Ricochet. And Ricochet ascended, but Ospreay, it took a little time. And he really took it upon himself during COVID to, put weight on, and he became a legitimate heavyweight during.
Well, look, think about what he did for himself. I mean, he put himself in a position to be the number one free agent and get into a humongous bidding war between the WWE and AEW. So right. That's right there, man. I mean, when you've got WWE throwing a ton of money and you've got Tony Khan throwing a ton of money, I mean, you're in a position to be that guy. I mean, that right there should tell you a lot about who this person is.
Really quick, he's 30 years old.
Right. He's mine.
He's 30 years old, man. And also I do want to say too, before you read through the accolades and give your thoughts there, John, another thing to put him over, he was a chosen dude to be the IWGP champion. Well, I guess, yes, the IWGP champion. And got hurt. It was the neck injury or whatever that was, and he had to take time off. And that sort of train wreck they're booking for a while. But they saw it and they were ready to run with him. So yeah, he's that guy.
Yeah, and you literally hit everything on the head that I was going to say about Ospreay. He's literally just now hitting his stride and hitting his prime, and all of this, and he has the most 5-star matches in the Observer, if I'm not correct, right?
Yeah. He passed Misawa this year.
Misawa, yeah, and he was the best flying wrestler from 2016 to 2019, best wrestling maneuver in 19 and 2022 with the Stormbreaker the first time, Hidden Blade with the second one, Europe MVP, non-heavyweight MVP, most outstanding wrestler in 19 and 22, match of the year in 1922, and he's probably going to get it again this year with Omega. And as we mentioned before too, with his New Japan stuff, he was IWGP World Heavyweight Champion one time, he was United States Champion 2 times, he is currently still the US Heavyweight Champion, Junior Heavyweight Champion 3 times, never openweight champion. I mean, the guy is very decorated in everything outside of mainstream United States wrestling, and he will be fully decorated by the time he's done, I have no doubt.
Well, I mean, look, it's like you said, Mongoose, if we're talking about Wembley, it's got to be Ospreay as champ, dude. He's got to come out of Wembley as the freaking champ. I mean, if the rumors are true that they're moving towards more of an in-ring product and less storytelling and stuff like that, kind of similar to what you see in New Japan. If that's the truth, then Ospreay needs to be the face of your company. Him and MJF should kill each other for the next 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah, and the one thing I do need to say is when you mentioned about the probably going to get match of the year, do not be surprised if he's 3 of the top 5 and probably 6 of the top 10. Like,
I think the Omega match at Wrestle Kingdom. Okay, let's just pause right there and think about that. So Wrestle Kingdom is what, January 4th every year? Right? Is that what, the 4th or the 7th or something like that?
January 4th.
We're talking about 4 days into the new year. That match took place and was match of the year.
Yep.
For 361 days after that, dude. It's so impressive to think about that. I mean, I think that the Omega match for me is probably going to end up getting match of the year vote for me when we do the awards. But I think my favorite match from him is the Tai Chi match, man. That Tai Chi match is phenomenal.
So Will Ospreay, I mean, what can you say? What can you say about the man? The in-ring skills and the spectacle of what he can do physically in the ring is absolutely insane. Obviously one of the best workers in the world for a while now. Just athletic feats that you have to see it to believe it. It's just, there's so much innovation. What he does looks incredible. You have to watch and see it. And when he's in and he's on a top draw match, you can't miss it. It's going to be entertaining. Been a top guy in New Japan, held the gold, that kind of stuff. Right now they renamed it for him the UK champion, but yeah, Rev Pro. When you see a match with him, you're gonna be entertained and you're gonna just be blown away by what he can do in the ring. And more currently, I'm really looking forward to what he's gonna do in AEW, with a little bit lighter of a schedule where he's not gonna put so much wear and tear on himself as he did in New Japan. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does in that regard and how things go with him there. I think there's some wild matchups there. If they can time it up with Bryan Danielson, that ought to be a heck of a show. You know that anytime he and Kenny Omega are in the ring together, it's an insane display. So, but there's all kinds of matchups there that should just be incredibly entertaining for years. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
All right. Well, moving on to number 57 on the countdown. He came in with 146 votes. Again, did not make Andretti's list. Hard to get on this list here. He came in on Mongoose's list at 28, so that's probably the highest we've seen anybody on the list so far. Came in at JC's list at 67 and mine at 62, and that is Shinsuke Nakamura. So Mongoose, I'll let you run with that.
So Shinsuke is so high on mine by default of the Observer Hall of Fame rule. So that automatically put him over, a lot of guys, your Arn Andersons and Lex Lugers and some of those that we've talked about today, and then greats that we've already talked about before. And the reason that I had him so high was not only what I was able to see, but then what I was able to go back and see. This dude's awesome. All right, he's as charismatic as they come. When Shinsuke is ready to work, he's not, I don't want to say impossible to keep up with, but he's one of those that he'll run all over the ring, killing you to death with strikes. I love his entrance. That WWE NXT, that whole, you know what I mean? Like, it's so great, man. Dude won a Royal Rumble. I was never as excited for a WrestleMania match in recent history as I was for that match with AJ Styles. And man, did they just book that right into the pooper. They took what could have been a monumental, we're going to show highlights of this for years and years, and they just had Shinsuke. They literally had an entire feud with him kicking a guy in the dick over and over again. This recent history now, I do like the Shinsuke resurgence a lot. I don't fault him basically for probably from like 2020 through 22, simply because he was either injured or not being used. And part of the reason that he came here in the first place was to not go and kill himself every night, getting kicked and doing the kicking over and over again, especially when you get into like G1 time and all that. He paid his dues and he deserved to get paid and have fun and surf and do all those other things that he likes to do. So good for him, man. By all accounts, he's a very happy guy over here. And so I'm not going to fault him for that. And the fact that they, sort of unleashed him again. And I was ready for him to beat Seth for that title. This match, this little feud.
I thought he was going to. I thought he was going to do it.
Yep, and this little mini feud with Cody now, that's great, man. He's featured in a spot where he absolutely should be, which is the guy that is an absolutely credible guy that will give your champions or your title contenders or whatever a heck of a feud and a great match or two or three, and he doesn't need to win because he's reached his crescendo. But yeah, he's an all-timer, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, my introduction to Nakamura was through NXT, and I loved that initial NXT run. We've talked about it a lot here on the show. That's some of the best wrestling that's been around in years, and it's really hard to beat. And I love that NXT. I don't think anything can like ever replace that because this is what got me back into watching wrestling again. But yeah, I love Nakamura. I love the resurgence. I love the fact that we're getting something with Cody here, like right before Royal Rumble. I'm really excited to see what they do for him for WrestleMania this year, especially with Triple H at the helm again. And he's a Triple H guy, so I don't see him going away like he did before. So, yeah, do you have anything, Andretti?
I mean, the only thing I really had was just I kind of got introduced to him too through the NXT run because I knew the name for a long time with the New Japan stuff. But that was kind of like right at the beginning of me investigating the New Japan. Honestly, man, maybe he might have kind of been the catalyst for me to go back and start looking at that stuff, because when he came into NXT, I liked him a lot right away because of the entrance and he was just such a unique character, right? I mean, just with the body movements and everything. And I kind of figured right away that was a Triple H hire to bring him in, and that Vince was not going to know what to do with that guy. I had that as soon as I saw that guy show up in NXT, I was like, they're going to pull him up to the main roster eventually, and they're not going to do a damn thing with him because Vince is going to be like, I don't understand who this person is, right? And that's kind of what happened to him for a while. But he probably was the reason why I started going back and checking out some of the New Japan stuff. And look, I knew the names. I knew who Okada was and everything. But I think seeing Nakamura in NXT for that first run was probably the catalyst for me going and really getting invested in New Japan.
Yeah, and an incredibly decorated wrestler, and and this is what a lot of people have no idea. Like he's super decorated in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like he won the World Heavyweight Championship over there 3 times. He was Intercontinental Champion 5 times, Tag Team Champion, New Japan Cup winner, G1 winner from 2011. Won the Tag League in 2006 with Masahiro Chono, who was another entrant on this list earlier. He in WWE, he's 2-time NXT champion, 2-time Intercontinental champion, 2-time United States champion, won a SmackDown championship. Again, like you mentioned, Mongoose, he won the Royal Rumble in 2018. I mean, he's super decorated. And
the Tokyo Sports Awards are a big deal too, so he got best bout with Ibushi from 2013, best bout award with Okada from 2014, Rookie of the Year 2003. I mean, those are a big deal. The Tokyo Sports Awards are a big deal.
Yeah, and he also got he was a Hall of Fame, entered into the Observer Hall of Fame in 2015, Wrestler of the Year in 2014, Match of the Year in 15 with Kota Ibushi, and most charismatic in 14 and 15. So incredibly very well decorated representative here on the list.
Shinsuke Nakamura is someone that I'm really excited for in 2023 going into 2024. And that's not just, because of what he's doing right now in WWE, but to go back and look and see what he has done over the years. The list of accolades: 3-time IWGP Heavyweight Champion, longest reigning champion, IC champion in New Japan. One of the 3 new Musketeers with Shibata and Tanahashi. He main evented a Wrestle Kingdom, with the IC title. It was him and Tanahashi. That feud and his work at that time elevated the Intercontinental title in New Japan to the same status as the heavyweight title, where people were genuinely like, these are on the same par, which is an incredible feat. He came over after a while, was the NXT champion, IC champion, US champion in WWE. And then he kind of went and was floundering because I don't think the regime at the time in WWE knew what to do with him. But in 2023, here towards the end, he's gotten, some lifeblood back in him, being a heel and kind of a spooky, scary, don't know what he's going to do, cold, calculating. And it started with Seth. And I thought it was a great feud with Seth. Maybe ran a little bit long, but that's not his fault. He played his part well. And when they started doing the pre-recorded promos with him, I think that really unlocked something to get over the language barrier. And it feels like it can be sort of overdone, which I think is a tiny bit of what they're running into now. With Cody, it feels a little overdone. The story's good, so I'm cool with it. But the mechanics of how it's displayed every week, if we just keep doing the promos and stuff. But overall, I'm excited for what he was, and I'm excited for what he gets to be now in WWE again. And I hope at some point they actually legitimize him with a world heavyweight title so that they can use him more as an every once in a while spectacle, especially as he ages a little bit. So that would be really cool to see. But yeah, Nakamura, awesome.
All right, coming in at 56 with 147 votes. He was on all 4 of our lists. He was on Andretti's list at 60. He's on Mongoose's list at 51. He was on JC's list at 70 and my list at 76. And that is the natural Dustin Rhodes.
Well, I call him the natural as can be. Yeah, they call him the natural. It just comes naturally.
So looking at those scores right there for the 4 of us, is that the tightest and the closest we've been yet on somebody?
It feels like it, yeah. Like we all pretty much the same spot in our list.
Yeah, 60, 51, 70, 76 is really tight.
Mm-hmm. It has to be. And for Dustin, for me, I mean, to me, he's gold dust. I think he's kind of like that for most people. But for me, it's the early 2000s Gold Dust with Booker T. Booker T and Gold Dust is probably my favorite tag team gimmick work. And but yeah, I did go back and watch a lot of that new gen stuff, and that's where he got his footing in WWE that we all know. And then he was the natural in WCW. But some of the work that he did there early, like my favorite match that we've already talked about here on the show is that Cody and Dustin match from all Double or Nothing 2019, the very first show. That's my favorite wrestling match of all time. And that match is incredible. And it's showed that a guy like him outside of WWE, like he could like legitimately go. And everyone always said that Dustin was an incredible worker. And he like put it on full display that night. That's a match that both of them went to Vince to try to get at a WrestleMania, and Vince flat out told them that's not a WrestleMania match. And
I don't understand. How did Vince not understand that they were siblings? And even if you didn't think that they were the best workers in the world, like that's very much a WWE gimmick where they would put those guys together.
Jeff and Matt Hardy did it. Edge and Christian did it. like, and
Shawn
not
Michaels
brothers,
but how many times do we break up a tag team?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's very strange to me that Vince didn't want to do that.
It's insanely strange. And some of the stuff I know a lot of people don't like whenever he did the whole electrocuted gimmick, but that he did for him he's been cast in a lot of really shitty gimmicks that he's made incredibly good. And I think that says a lot about him.
Well, I know you're a big mark for the Booker T stuff, right?
Oh, I love the Booker T stuff when he's doing the whole like the Darth Vader stuff, and then they did the Steve Irwin stuff like backstage, like trying to catch an NWO member and they caught X-Pac. Like that stuff is so good. Oh, it's so good.
There's a skit where they go to 7-Eleven that's absolutely awesome too, where he has on like a sideways hat and like a New York Knicks Charlie Ward jersey or something like that. Yeah, he's great.
Well, he's a hell of a singer too. You can ask anybody that was on that plane that night. A hell of a singer. A hell of a he's a lover at heart. That guy.
I was just gonna say, but so if it's to a lady, what it was, a serenader, a crooner. How would you put that?
So I got exposed to Dustin Rhodes through just the early WCW NWA stuff, and it was he was a young guy that was tall and kind of skinny, and watching that stuff growing up, a lot of people would say that he was only there because of his dad, right? Because of Dusty. And I think at first I wasn't a real big fan of him because of that. I kind of bought into that too. But going back and watching a lot of the early stuff from him as the natural, I mean, not only is the song unbelievable, like the entrance song was unbelievable.
That was one of the things that I had for him. Call him a natural to me.
I think I'm gonna start coming out to that whenever I walk into a room. That's gonna be the song I'm gonna play. But going back and watching that stuff, man, he's definitely a little raw, but I don't think that it was to the point where he was only there because of his dad. He knew what the hell he was doing, and he got pretty damn good pretty quick, man. That guy.
My stuff starts with him as the natural, same as you did, in the mix with that like Dangerous Alliance kind of crew, one of the sort of the baby face, but don't get me wrong. Was it like him, Steamboats? Can't remember who else would have been there, but it would have started there. And then we go back to that TV title. The dude was great. That the WCW run, I always was a fan. Again, the song really, really was big. It was a big deal. In-ring work was always good. He was an easy guy to like, he really was. And it was, not only was he just like He was a tall, skinnier guy, like you said. Like he looked like anybody's dad does at the beach, right? You know what I mean? Like maybe I work out, maybe I don't, or maybe I used to. You know what I mean? Like, but he could go, and believability was great. Always a good worker. And then that he's in one of my we just talked about that Tower of Terror match or whatever. That match with Blacktop Bully, where they bleed all over a driving truck, is one of the most incredible things that you're ever going to see.
They're throwing hay bales at each other.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, that match is what got him the Ixnay and over to WWE. And I did not even know Goldust came out, and I didn't know that was him forever. I mean, it took me a really long time and then whenever I found out that it was him, I was gobsmacked. And that initial Goldust run is awesome.
Fantastic.
I mean, it is awesome. You want to talk character work, man. He goes from blonde hair, cowboy boots, son of a plumber, to guy decked out in Hollywood majesty that wears a long-haired wig to the ring, that rubs himself, that wants to sleep with Razor Ramon. Like it was something else, man.
We've all been there.
Yep. And he has some dark times, right? Like there was that little the 7 run that I'm sure he wants to forget in WCW. Like, hey, Dustin, come to our company. We want you to be a child predator. Could you please? And then that from there into that artist formerly known as Goldust stuff was. Look, dude, he was really fun to play with on Raw's War or whatever the PlayStation game was at that time. But he was something else that comes out as the New Year's baby and all that other jazz that he did. But then when he came back as, regular Dust, not artist formerly known as or whatever, he then settled himself into comedy. And it was so endearing, the way that we talk about Miz is endearing, is embracing himself as a geek, right? Like he's a funny guy. He's a very funny guy. And if he wasn't going to be getting pushed in the ring, he got himself on TV a lot, man. Yeah. And so kudos for that. And then just like John said, all of a sudden from that run, 15 years later, 16, 17 years later, finds himself in a match against his brother on the pay-per-view that launches a brand new company. And, they have a true 5-star match, bled all over each other. That was absolutely beautiful. Him and Cody team together then against the Young Bucks. And that really, really started to launch that company. And look, his work whenever he was just Dustin Rhodes, that 5 decades and still kicking or whatever that said. There was plenty of matches on television in those early Dynamites where he would come out and he would go for 10 minutes, and it was great, great 10 minutes of television. And the fact that he's one of the main people that's there, working and training the young folk, it's awesome. It's a great redemption story. And the fact that we all had him right in the middle of the top 100 wrestlers of all time, and this dude's never held a world championship, is pretty awesome. It really, really says a lot about him and what he's done.
Yes. A super respected guy by his peers and by fans and analysts, whatever you want to call him. Just a guy that everybody seems to like, man. Everybody seems to really like him and respect his work, for sure.
Number 56, Dustin Rhodes. I think it's one of those things where the expectations for him, being the son of Dusty, was interesting. And I don't know that he ever lived up to whatever hype there may have been, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't a very excellent performer and professional wrestler. He was a 2-time U.S. champion in WCW, never a top guy there. 3-time Intercontinental champion during the Attitude Era in WWE, which was probably his highlight, especially playing the character Goldust. Because it was so boundary pushing and so different at the time, being androgynous and sort of sexual and potentially, boundary pushing in a time where that was not super socially acceptable. And then there was some down times and some other stuff, but I always have to give him credit because the match with Cody at Double or Nothing was what brought me back into professional wrestling. And it was just such a great story and such a great, moment but his impact overall as a boundary pusher, I think is what solidifies him.
All right, coming in at 55 on the list with 156 votes. He came in on Andretti's list at 54. Came in
44.
When I say
44.
44. Came in on Mongoose's list at 69. Nice.
What kind of disgusting, despicable lack of respect.
Came in at JC's list at 60, and he came in at my list at 77. And that is the total package, Lex Luger. So,
dude, I freaking love Lex Luger, man. He's a guilty pleasure of mine because I know he's not the greatest worker in the ring, but when I think about professional wrestling and what it's supposed to look like and just all the pageantry that goes around it, right? And the fact that he played football at Penn State, dude. He played football for the Miami Hurricanes. He played, semi-professional football. He played for the freaking Packers, all this kind of stuff. Like that leading into his wrestling career, to me, is everything that professional wrestling really is, right? And the whole story of Luger and the fall from grace, right? With all the unfortunate stuff with Liz, and then finding the Lord and climbing back up and trying to help people. Like that all to me is such a big story that there's probably going to end up being a Luger movie made at some point. I don't know who the hell's going to play him, but maybe Zac Efron, the way he looks right now from that freaking Iron Claw movie. Yeah. But like Luger, dude, I've always liked that guy, man. I loved him as a heel. He's awesome as a heel. I liked him even as the babyface USA guy in WWE or WWF at that point. I mean, I loved him then too. But like, look, I don't want to talk the whole time here, but dude, that match with Flair, dude, that Ric Flair Luger match is one of my favorite matches of all, and it's because of Flair. It's because of Flair. But Flair makes Luger look like he is freaking, looks like he's Okada in the ring, dude. Yeah, moving around. So I mean, it's just an unbelievable man. I can't say enough good stuff about Lex Luger, man. He's one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, Lex Luger for me, he's one of those guys that like you don't even. I didn't realize like how much of a player he was in Nitro, and when I went back and watched all those Nitros, I really realized like how big of a player he was and all that, and he was awesome in Nitro. And he was he was great too as a narcissist in WWF. And I really think that if you are a Lex Luger fan or you want to know more about Lex, you should absolutely check out that WWE biography that they did, or the A&E stuff. Like that was an incredible watch. That was so well done. And I learned a lot.
It's one of the best things they've done, dude.
It really,
that Luger biopic is fantastic.
Oh, so good. And yeah, I just the torture rack is one of the greatest finishers that you can think of, and one of the greatest physiques, I think. I mean, when you think of a pro wrestler, like that's exactly who you think of.
Well, think about it. They bring him in for the WBF. The guy didn't wrestle for a year. They brought him in as a bodybuilder, man. I mean, how crazy is that? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like the whole story of Lex Luger, right? When you think about the whole story of that guy, man, it really is the total package. It's the total package of professional wrestling. That guy's life story is the total package of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the narcissist is. I remember just being absolutely floored whenever he debuted in WWE, because I don't remember, and I know that he's on WrestleMania 8 because of whenever we rewatched all the WrestleManias. And by not 1 ounce of me knew that happened, that he was at WrestleMania 8 whenever I was, 8 years old. And I remember when he debuted at the Royal Rumble, I was just over the moon because, him and Sting were great. The Dudes with Attitudes 2-pack, all in every single Hills and department store that you ever could think of. You would find that Dudes with Attitudes 2-pack. It's an epic 2-pack.
You talking about the Galoobs?
Yep.
Dude, I bought all the. You know where I bought all my Galoobs, Mongooses at Value City, dude. I bought all those freaking Galoobs at Value City.
Yeah, there you go. But that thing was everywhere, man. That 2-pack with that Dudes with Attitudes with him and Sting, and those figures were great. They were very, for Lex just having on trunks and boots. He looks awesome. And then he debuts as the narcissist, and there's that whole thing with he has the plate in his arm, and I'm freaking out, screaming at the television. Why can't we just get justice in this company? And then he has his face turn, and I was so all in on Lex Express, man. I know that it was a business, big business disaster. But I had an America Win suit that I would wear to school because Lex did. Do you know what I mean? Like when Lex slammed Yokozuna, it was one of those like man-making moments for me. Like I loved it so much. And then when he didn't win the title, I was destroyed, and I figured that he'd win at Mania. And then, by that time, went to Brett. And for me, that sort of was one of the things where contemporaneously, like at that time, it sort of ruined the Bret Hart feel for me, is that I wanted Lex, not Bret. When they both went over the top, I was a Lex guy, and obviously Bret was the right call, right? He was the right move, but Lex not getting that title soured me a little bit on Bret without me just being sort of, I don't know, like jealous for Lex, I guess you could say. And then he sort of, faded away, came back. Allied Powers was a great tag team. And then what happened?
I was thinking about them the other day. What happened with that they pulled the plug on that so early?
I'm not sure, but it times out close with Luger's contract just expired, and they didn't know that. And he was the first big coup. He showed up on the first Nitro, and that's a huge thing. Yeah, I think that he was, and I might have the timelines a little bit messed up, but I think he was working with that tag team and wasn't on a deal, was just getting paid nightly by the house. And then, with all the moves and shaking that Turner was doing for Nitro, they got him to hop over the first day. That was a really, really big deal, and that was a big get. And the other thing, John, you said about Nitro, the Nitro run, people forget this dude beat Hulk Hogan for the World Championship, like on television.
Literally, no one did that back then.
Yes. And so, he was something else. He really was. And then I got a chance to go back then. And this is whenever I was still a baby boy, but wasn't watching live. But I remember going to the video store and getting all those like Super Brawl and all those other paper. What was it? Super Brawl with him and Sting? Is that the one where he lost to Sting?
Yeah. While you're looking for that, Andretti, I'll run over his accolades here. He won. He was most improved wrestler for the Observer in '89. He was obviously WCW World Heavyweight Champion 2 times, World Television Champion 2 times, United States Heavyweight Championship 5 times, Tag Team Champion, big in NWA and WCW.
In that Royal Rumble too, man. The Royal Rumble where he
won
was
as Mongoose, he won the Royal Rumble with Brett in '94.
Super Brawl 92, Luger Sting.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
And also, and I wish I should have looked this up before we talked about it. Sorry, adoring fans. But the reason that he went to the WBF was Vince gimmicked a way to get him out of his WCW deal, where Vince stole him, and he wasn't going to wrestle for Vince, but Vince was still paying him, and then he was going to wrestle. It was a really, really interesting, shady, conniving kind of move to because Lex essentially retired from WCW, you know what I mean? And he wasn't wrestling, so there was no breach of contract. Right. He was just flexing.
Insane.
Luger is a guy who just, you look at him and you think, man, an instant Vince top guy, just $1 trillion look, and he had the credentials, especially in WCW. He was a two-time heavyweight champion. He beat Hogan before Sting did during the NWO run. Dropped it right back, but he was clearly thought well enough. Five-time U.S. champion. Top guy for WWF in his run. He never won a title, but he was, the big baby face, especially against Yokozuna, looked like $1 trillion. He was supposed to be the next Hogan after Hogan was done. And I think overall, if you look at him, he looked like a top guy, but he never felt like a top guy. And I don't know if it was just because he was limited in the ring as to what he could do. His promo skills were what they were. I mean, okay, but not the best. But, I mean, you couldn't deny the look, and he was around the top guy scene for a good long time.
Yeah, that is Lex Luger on the list. And coming in at 54 with 157 votes, he was on Andretti's list at 96. He was on Mongoose' list at 62. He was on JC's at 53 and mine at 36. And that is Owen Hart.
So I want to say something real quick about this, because I did not have Nakamura or Ospreay on my list, but I had Owen Hart at 96. Okay. And the reason why I did that was because I didn't want to have too much recency bias with what I was doing in my rankings. Now, are Nakamura and Ospreay more deserving than Owen Hart? I would say probably yes. They both probably are. But as I said, I think even in the first show that we did, I put more emphasis on historical figures than what I did on people that were working right at this second. So that's probably why I had Owen at 96 and didn't have Ospreay or Nakamura in mind. But that's, you guys can take it from there and start off. But I just wanted to give a little disclaimer there about why that was.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that that's the historical significance of Owen Hart is one of the biggest reasons why I put him in there. He's in one of my favorite WrestleMania matches of all time with Bret at WrestleMania 10. And super decorated in WWF, very tragic end for him. And he needs to be for me, he needs to be remembered, and he is being remembered, especially with the Owen Cup and all that. So there's no doubt in my mind that he is one of the best 100 to ever do it.
I got him. Look, he's one of my favorite feuds with two of the best wrestlers of my favorite era of wrestling in my life is him and Bret, and him and Shawn. That Bret, when he kicked Bret's leg out of his leg with that spit hanging from his mouth, cutting that promo. Oh my gosh. I remember being so excited that him and Bret were going to tag together after the dissension at the Survivor Series, and they were going to beat the Quebecers. And, this is going to be awesome. Like, I can't wait to see this, blah, blah, blah. And it was a heck of a turn. And, they have one of the best Mania openers ever. The cage match, for that being like a 6.5 foot cage, those two worked it up, down, left, and right. Like, that's an awesome, awesome blow off in that SummerSlam match. And then Owen and Shawn, when he gave Shawn that insecurity, and I thought that he, took Shawn away from me forever. Dude, I was gutted. And Owen was the perfect guy for that, right? Because he came off big time as this ruthless, sort of relentless, like little brother complex, right? And so he was going to do whatever it had to do, even if that meant, kicking your leg out from your leg or kicking your head right off of your head. And so he was great. Please let us not forget about the tag team run with Yokozuna. I know this is a singles thing, but that was an incredible tag team. Again, we had we had Shawn and Diesel, two dudes with attitudes, against Yoko and Owen for the triple threat match, for the first ever triple threat match of that In Your House. Owen didn't work it until the very end. He ran in and got pinned, but that was still that tag team. I was very, very much looking forward and into that feud. And then when dude, Owen was a member of the Nation of Domination.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like, 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 it was great, man. It was great. Enough is enough, and it's time for a change. And I'm going to join this militant
It's
black
incredible.
group. It is. It is. You guys know me. I do not like Jeff Jarrett, never have liked Jeff Jarrett. I respect
love
Jeff
Jeff
Jarrett.
Jarrett.
Yeah, and I respect Jeff Jarrett a lot. Probably the only point of his career that I would, sort of turn my nose at would be his buddy run with Jeff Jarrett.
Dude, they were awesome. That was a good tag. And so was the tag team with Coco and the tag team with the Anvil. All those tag teams were good.
Well, the Coco and the Anvils, without question. Yeah, that tag team with Coco, so great, man. High energy. I love it. But yeah, and then for him to we find out that he's a big time, babyface clown behind the scenes, and everybody loved him. And we get to see a piece of that as he embraced the Blue Blazer gimmick. He had no problem doing the pratfalls and all the other stuff, looking like a goober. And then obviously the meets his tragic demise. And yes, I'm happy that not only is he on the list, but he's up this high. Well deserving.
Yeah, he won the best flying wrestler in 87 and 88, feud of the year in 97 with the Hart Foundation and Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was a European champion in WWF, two-time Intercontinental champion, 4-time tag team champion, as we mentioned, King of the Ring in 1994, big-time Slammy Award winner, just a lot of Stampede Wrestling championships too. So somebody who career cut short, but somebody who will live on forever.
Dude, I love that guy. He was one of my favorite wrestlers when I was a kid. At one point, Owen Hart was my favorite wrestler when I was a kid. Like probably, that early 90s stuff when he was just coming into a singles run under his own name. Dude, and I love the Blackheart stuff with him and Brad. I mean, it was what a tragic story it is. But I mean, they it seemed like there for a minute they were pushing him to be a possible world champ, coming out of that feud. It's a shame, man. Really a shame. But it's hard to find anybody that'll say a negative word about Owen. I mean, prankster backstage, lovable guy. Everybody seemed to really like and enjoy being around. It's one of those people that if you could just go back and hang out with a wrestler, who would you want to hang out with and have a good time with? I mean, you'd think Owen Hart would probably be really, really near the top of that list.
Yeah, we said all that stuff, and I completely passed over. I was so focused on the Brett and Sean stuff. Owen 316 says, "I just broke your neck."
Sure.
And which it's a shame that that there was actually some heat there or whatever that came, because obviously no one wants to botch a spot, and especially no one wants to think that they're paralyzed. But for Owen to be the guy then that wears the shirt that says Owen 316 and "I just broke your neck" on the back, perfect, man. Like it fit him perfect. That's great stuff.
Yeah, was.
Owen's an interesting case of what could have been. He's an amazing worker, a really good talker. He won the Intercontinental and European Championship with WWE. He was there during the Attitude Era, the New Gen era. Absolutely loved by his peers. I think had he been able to be around longer, he might have gotten a shot at the big time. Although in that era, it wasn't really about work, and man, he could work. I think he was every bit as good a worker as Brett, and I actually prefer his promos quite a bit to his brothers. So, yeah, man, it's in my going back and watching the New Gen era and getting to watch him work. Man, he was a really special performer. Charisma, he had a presence about him. He was excellent to watch, and it's a shame that his life was cut short the way that it was, because we would have gotten many more years out of him, and I don't think he would have been bitter the way Brett is, and I think he would still be in the business and trying to contribute today, at least in some way. So it's a shame that he died so young, but I would have liked to see him get a shot at the big time. But yeah, his in-ring work, his ability to talk was just, he was excellent. He was a standout even when he was mid-card. So
all right, coming in at number 53 with 157 votes. He was on all four of our lists. Again, he was on Andretti's list at 74, Mongoose's list at 55, JC's list at 50, and my list at 68, and that is Samoa Joe. And my introduction to Samoa Joe is, again, with NXT. I was completely unaware of all of that ROH stuff, but a guy that is still incredibly believable today, somebody who's still like getting after it today, can still go, is doing maybe some of his best work that he's ever done today.
I think he is, actually. I think you're right. He's doing his best stuff he's ever done right now.
Yeah. And somebody who, has done a lot in this business and still has a lot more to give, and, really happy that Samoa Joe made it on the list.
Joe,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Marcus.
Okay. So for me, mine was, so by the time that I started watching NXT with our beautiful co-host here, Joe was gone. So I did not get to see Joe's run in real time. And I watched a whole lot of Joe and Finn Balor, post happening, and God, is it great. And when they brought him up, he had one little run that I thought was, and I think that it really, really sort of gutted his fan base, was, if you guys remember the little title program he had with Brock, where Joe is actually being presented as this, killer. And here we go. We have these two mastodons that are going to be facing off. And then, Brock just beats him with an F5. Believe it or not, as many times as we name drop it, that might have been at Great Balls of Fire. That actually might have been a Great Balls of Fire main event. So it was Brock and Joe, 2017.
Yeah. Oh,
yep. Yep. And what sucked was that was when they were doing the thing where they were building up Brock and Roman, and Roman was supposed to be the one that kicks out of the F5, because everybody that Brock faced was done with one F5. And unfortunately, Joe was one of those people. So he had a really, really nice run, or a really, really nice build to it, ready to go. Fans were all into it. And then he's, done with an F5, and that sort of extinguished his fire for a little bit. And then for him to sort of flounder, it was a shame that he had his NXT GM kind of wrestling fired twice, and then he gets brought on to AEW. And for as many people as they brought into that company that were basically looking for somewhere to work until the WWE called him again, he's not one of those, man. Like, he went there with something to prove and has continued to do it. Him getting that TV title, that ROH TV title, I sort of thought was, just charity at the time whenever he won it. And he's turned himself into a legitimate main event guy. He's great. He's absolutely great.
If you're looking for a match to check out that's really good with him from the ROH days, that match with him and Kenta Kobashi is on YouTube, and you can get it with Riccaboni doing retroactive commentary on top of it, which is really, really interesting. But that Lesnar Samoa Joe thing, man, has always left a bad taste in my mouth. And I think that they just treated him the same way they treated, a lot of other guys that came over that were stars in other places. I mean, Vince just brought that guy in, a guy that was everybody loved from Ring of Honor and everybody loved from that TNA run, and they fed him to Lesnar. Samoa Joe should have beat Brock Lesnar in that match, and I firmly believe that, and I think they really screwed that up for him.
At the very least, man,
he's a star, man. That guy's a freaking star, and he's one of the most believable guys of the last 25 years.
Yeah, and at the very least, it couldn't have been just a one F5 and you're done. That was it. It's just like,
stupid.
Yeah. And then some accolades here. He was NXT champion 3 times, US champion 2 times, and he won the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic with Finn back in 2015. And an enormous amount of stuff in TNA that we don't have to overly get into, but he was best brawler in 05 and 06 in the Observer, Most Outstanding Wrestler in 05 in the Observer, and also Match of the Year in 05 with Kobashi.
In my honest opinion, they should put that belt in AEW on Samoa Joe at the end of the year, at the end of this month, and then let him hold that belt until Wembley. Because here's the thing: if you've already got precedent now with Cole and MJF, wrestling at Wembley together, correct? So why not? You don't have to have the belt on the line in that match anymore, right? So if you run that as one of the matches, you can have the World Heavyweight title match be something else, and it should be Ospreay and Joe, man. Those are two of the most physical guys that are out there right now. Let those guys kill each other in the main event at Wembley. That's a freaking unbelievable match.
Yeah. That my turn on that. My only fantasy booking change on that would have been that I would have that if Joe could beat MJF, and then I selfishly would like to see Kenny beat Joe, and then Ospreay win the best of the 3 matches by beating Kenny, just because that'll be, it would be insane. But Joe would be awesome. Joe, it's not like you would be, suffering having Joe there rather than him. And Joe would be great because Ospreay is going to be a huge baby face, and Joe can be a rotten, dirty heel. He's awesome.
He really is great.
Yeah.
Samoa Joe is one of those, era-defining stars outside of the WWE bubble. I mean, he was so important to Ring of Honor and TNA, and was, a top guy in those promotions, and meant so much to them. The feud with Punk, I mean, they resurrected it 20 years later and made it one of the feature matches at All In Wembley. So just hugely important figure, showed that, some of those non-traditional WWE folks can still make it in WWE. Now, he never got an opportunity under the McMahon regime. I think if a couple years younger in today's WWE, he might have gotten a shot to be an even bigger deal. Maybe even a shot with one of the titles. But he was an ROH World Champion, TV Champion, TNA Champion, NXT Champion. And then even today, he's getting the push he probably deserves, being in the title picture around MJF and sort of getting his flowers that way, and being a top guy there. And he is portrayed as the absolute menace and big bad that he is. So,
all right, the last 2 of the day we got coming in at number 52 with 158 votes. He was on Andretti's list at 97. Mongoose' list at 61, JC's list at 47, and mine at 41, and that is Ravishing Rick Rude.
What I'd like to have right now is for all you fat, ugly,
Mine 42.
peppers, keep the noise down while I take my robe off and show the ladies the sexiest man on God's green earth. Hit the music.
And Rick Rude is somebody who I instantly think of as Intercontinental Champion. And the first thing that comes to my mind is airbrush pants. We already talked about this. Anybody that wears airbrush pants, you moved up 10 spots on my list. That's just the way that it is. And the way that he had like the airbrush with the face on him, like that is just next level heel work. And the fact that he was on Raw one night when they did the taping, or 1 week on the taping, then it aired simultaneously while he was on a live Nitro. Some of the stuff that he did like that, and being a lackey, even though that's not really like what we're here for. We're here for like the in-ring work. Like that's some of the most iconic stuff that had happened during that time. And a lot of people, some people like in my era don't really remember him as the wrestler, but if you go back and watch some of that early 90s, late 80s stuff, like it's some of the best work that you're going to find.
Dude, he has the best physique ever.
Yes.
I know you're going to disagree with that because you're a big Randy Orton mark right now, but Rick Rude has the best physique ever.
his waist was ballerina small.
And
Do you know what I'm saying? Like it was absolutely incredible. Go ahead, Andretti.
They always talk about. I'm sure you guys remember this, but when we were kids, Baker, you might be too young for this, but Mongoose, do you remember how when people used to talk about grip strength?
Mm-hmm.
When we were kids, like how important it was to have grip strength, right? And
yep. I had the things.
Rick Rude,
I had the things in my house all the time.
Dude, Rick Rude had legendary grip strength, I think, amongst the other the wrestlers. And I think my favorite Rick Rude story is whenever he threatened to kill Ric Flair and was chasing Flair around the arena and just kept walking up behind him and telling him he was going to fucking kill him. That's one of my favorite stories ever with Rick Rude. Flair just kept running away.
There's something to wrestle with on him, and this is way back. It's probably 2017, 2018-ish. Is excellent. The Pritchard tells some monumental Rude tales, one of which I do believe involves him directly injecting erectile medication into his member.
yes,
Yeah. So there's some wild stuff out there. John, you said about the airbrush pants. This dude airbrushed Jake Roberts' wife's face onto his tights.
yeah, it's incredible. It's insanity. That just happened. Like I saw that on like back in this day. That would just happen like just recently, like this week. It's
so with Rick. The other thing I think of the pants right away. I do. I then go to the Dangerous Alliance as we talked about before, and dude, when him and Flair start the feud on that Flair for the gold, yeah. and then he wins the title, and then Rude and Steamboat. John, if you have not yet, you need to do yourself a favor. I think it's like Beach Blast 93 or Beach Blast 94. Those two have a heck of a match. Like Rude and Steamboat is a great early 90s WCW title feud. There's the stuff with the Warrior, obviously, where he's the first person to beat the Warrior. And then, he's the Warrior's first big feud after the Warrior wins the title, obviously, because that you can trust Rick Rude to make the Warrior look as good as possible. This guy, he's an all-timer. He's somebody that not everybody knows, but enough people know, right? Like
Beach Blast 92.
Oh gosh, yeah, I gotta check that out.
It's freaking great, dude. It's freaking like I remember him showing up in WCW after being a big star in WWF, and I freaking marked out to the moon as a young lad whenever Rude jumped ship, and I knew he was going to get pushed right away to the top, and he did, and it was freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned 1992 because he won Best Heel in the Observer newsletter in 92, and he also was the Intercontinental Champion one time, class of WWE class of 2017 Hall of Fame, and he won the 20-man Royal Rumble in 1988.
And U.S. Heavyweight title at WCW also.
Yeah, he was WCW International World Heavyweight Champion 3 times, U.S. Heavyweight Champion 1 time.
Yeah, awesome.
But all right, we got our very last entrant today, and this is one that
one thing we gotta say one more thing about Rick Rude.
What?
One more thing about Rick Rude we forgot to say. The greatest LJN of all time, hands down, is the Rick Rude LJN.
Impossible to wrestle with,
to do anything with, other than drop kick.
Right.
Actually, if they made that figure right now, everybody would love it because everybody loves when people throw the forearms. So it would be perfect to have him in like Ishii as an LJN that just forearm each other in the face the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It is an incredible pose. It is. I'm taking my morning piss.
Rick Rude's another interesting case where you would think he would have been pushed to the moon in WWE. He had a great look. He could talk. The character that he had there was over the top. And maybe it was a symptom of the Hulk Hogan era and that Rude was a better heel. But I mean, you can't deny him. He was, again, looked like $1 billion. Great, gear to go with it. Good worker, could talk, great character. Definitely the highlight was the WWF run with the IC title. And then you can't mention him and not talk about him being on Raw and Nitro, technically the same night. So Rick Rude, an excellent talent, died a little young, had injury problems, but under different circumstances, could have and probably should have been a tippy top guy.
But all right, our final entrant for the day. This is one I'm super excited to talk about. It's number 51, 161 votes. Came in at Andretti's list at 94, Mongooses list at 56, JC's at 53, and mine at 50. And that is none other than DDP, Diamond Dallas Page.
Inhale, fist to hand. Get your shoulders over your hips. Feel it open up your knees here. Right forearm to the mat.
Feel the back.
Self-high five.
We love you, Uncle Dally. You've elongated our spines. The mostest in here. I can't wait to hit a fat burner, and then you combine that with an energy. But what a story!
How you start to build real strength.
It is exactly how you build.
Flow going.
Keep the flow going, baby. But I love Dally. He's so incredible. The fact that this guy literally got into the business from doing radio spots and having the pink Cadillac for that WrestleMania that they used.
So awesome, dude. It's so awesome.
And then the fact that he didn't learn really how to wrestle. He was a big power plant guy, learned how to wrestle when he was 35 years old. And to have the career that he did, I mean, I'm sure it really helped that he became really good close friends with Bischoff and lived right next door to him, so he could go over and pitch ideas to him all the time. But it's really crazy that he really didn't find his footing until about 97, and then it was with the help of Randy Savage with that feud, and that's an incredible feud. So if you're looking for a long-standing feud, that Great American Bash match with Dallas and Macho Man Randy Savage, I think it's 96 or 97. I'm pretty sure it's 97. That one is incredible watch. And when you're done with that, then you can go, you can build your energy and do your fat burner and build your strength, because we love DDP here on the channel. We'd love for you to support us on the channel if you're hearing this, Dallas. So don't be afraid to hit a brother up.
It was great with him when he was coming up too. I mean, it sure doesn't hurt when your wife is the hottest woman in the universe at that time. So, I mean, my one of my favorite memories of DDP from that WCW run was whenever he had to rent out his tights for money. Do you guys remember any of that? That was so freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Was that whenever he was like Vegas Diamond Dallas Page?
I think so, yeah.
Like whenever the downfall, whenever he would have lost Vinny Vegas and then lost the Diamond Stud, and then was he like down on his luck? Is that what?
I think that's what it was. I think that's what it was. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he talked about that in his DDP thing that WWE did.
So they actually, I can't believe this. So he was Happy Corbin or whatever. He was Corbin's story arc before we had Baron Corbin.
Maybe
he just ended up being a little bit more successful. Dude, when I think of Diamond Dallas Page, I think of him with his wrists or his ribs taped.
Oh yeah,
that's. I feel like every Diamond Dallas Page match I've ever seen, which I know it's only like 6 of them, but he has his ribs taped. Just midsection injury. Excellent worker. Do you want to know how good Diamond Dallas Page is? Watch the main event of Halloween Havoc 1998 and look at the match that he gets out of Bill Goldberg.
Dude, I was just going to say that match with him and Goldberg, is that Goldberg's best match?
It has to be.
Yeah, I think it might be, dude.
As a match, absolutely.
And the fact that the people bought the show didn't even see it because of the timing, and insanity. The fact that they ran it the next night for free on Nitro, but by far Goldberg's best match came out of Dallas.
Yeah, Page went to work that night, man. What a hell of an accomplishment to have a phenomenal match with a guy that just didn't have didn't have the in-ring ability that a lot of other people did. And the fact that they let DDP go that long and have a real wrestling match with him, it's a testament to him, man. It's a vote of confidence to that guy, and how good he was at that point to let him do that. And they let him do it. It was great.
Also of note here too is that Dallas and I are best friends. Because I saw him at the NXT show in LA for WrestleMania, gave him the big diamond cutter, and he gave it back. So we are now officially.
That was really funny when that happened.
So yes, Dally, if you're listening, that was me, and we would love to have you on the show and or sponsor.
Also, Diamond Dallas Page teamed with Karl Malone, taught Karl Malone the diamond cutter.
My God.
And also, he was the guy with the Jay Leno thing too, right?
Absolutely.
Was he the baby face with the Jay Leno one?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. So what a
guy!
I'm still trying to figure out why Karl Malone diamond cuttered the referee at the end of that match for no reason.
I don't know. We just did watch that match earlier in the summer together here on the channel. So if you want to go back to the Summer Bash, head on back to the archives. That is a long show, but we watched that in long form.
God.
But Dallas, yeah, he had best wrestling maneuver with the diamond cutter in 97 and the Observer Awards most improved in 1996. And he was a WWF European champion. And, we don't need to talk about his WWF run because, the whole stalker gimmick was not great, but
he did have a belt. He had a singles belt, the European title.
Yeah.
Right? And he stalked Sarah Undertaker.
Yep.
God.
We've
all been there, I guess.
Right. I had her at 102 on my list.
He is a Hall of Fame member of 2017. He was World Heavyweight Champion 3 times in WCW, Television Champion 1 time, 2-time U.S. Heavyweight, two-time U.S. Heavyweight Champion. One of the guys that is still doing work for the business to this day, bringing back a lot of those old guys, especially keeping them in the accountability crib and all that. Like, hats off to Dally. He's done incredible things in his lifetime, and he's done more outside of the ring than he has inside the ring.
Yeah.
And let us not forget, this dude was at the first All In.
He was there.
He was and he's seconding Cody in a couple of different matches.
Oh, whenever he came down at that Pittsburgh show, that was insanity. Pop to the moon for that.
Diamond Dallas Page, probably one of the great wrestling success stories during his time and even after his time in the ring. He was a manager or a valet, whatever you want to call it. I guess you would call him a manager. For a while, he ended up finally getting into the ring and training in his 30s and getting into it. I think Bischoff has described him as a walking gimmick during those early years in WCW, where he just didn't know what he was going to be, and he tried everything under the sun. And then it was those matches with Savage and that feud with him when Savage was in the NWO that really springboarded him into the mainstream success that he ended up having, getting the diamond cutter over and being that huge baby face. He was a 3-time world champion and 2-time US champ with WCW. But they really just misused him in the WWE. They didn't, I don't know if they didn't know what to do with him. They just didn't think he would be a top guy, in their context, whatever. I know they programmed him with Undertaker, and obviously that means something in that bubble, but it was a weird story, and he wasn't a baby face, and I don't know. It didn't seem to hit, but what I think should also be contributing to his legacy is what he does today, where he helps rehabilitate people and get their lives back on track. And the DDP yoga thing, which helps a lot of people, wrestling or non-wrestling related. I think that all contributes to his legacy, and part of the reason he's on this list.
But all right, well, that is 60 that is 60 through 51 today. And we're going to keep rolling here. We got the Holiday Awards show coming up, and we also have a double feature with Andretti After Dark here as well that we're going to do, and super excited about that. So just make sure you download, rate, review, and subscribe. Hit us up on socials at _Podski and the Toast of the Coast. That's where you can find Andretti on Instagram, and you won't find Mongoose on the interwebs because he won't do it. So with that, we will see you next time on the Podski.
Booker of the Year. Suck it, John.